Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Franchise Tag podcast for the 2023 NFL season. We're going to be starting off going over week 1, what happened, our predictions, how many of them were right, how many of them weren't. Then we're going to talk about some games that we want to talk about. I've got a couple, I know Elijah's got a couple. And then we're going to just kind of go from there, do a little bit injury talk, and then do our week 2 predictions. Might briefly revisit the stocks and bingo segments as well, just to kind of give a little update on that. We will start off talking about week 1 and what went down, beginning with the first chronological game, the Chiefs and Lions, which we were both pretty hard on picking the Lions for. It was a little closer than I thought it was going to be. I did not have it being a 1-point game. I think the Chiefs had a chance to win it too. And I mean, well, obviously they had a lot of chances to win it, but Kadarius freaking Toney. Oh my God. That was a disaster class, an absolute disaster class. Those were passes that you could grab any random fan, probably 50% chance they'd catch those passes.
Except for like the one that hit him the balls. That's like the only one.
There was one that I was really
more so weird timing on the drag routes.
Yeah. There was one that I was really mad at when I first saw it, and then I watched the replay and I was like, okay, so they were both standing in the same place when the ball got there, and the ball was not in a place where either of them could catch it. So that one I don't fault him for, but man, that pick six entirely Kadarius's fault. And then just the lack of the ability to catch a pass after that was crazy. Panthers Falcons, I don't really have much to say on. I was wrong there. I expected Bryce Young to be a little bit hotter.
I say anything about the Lions Chiefs? Jeez.
Oh yeah. I guess you can talk. God.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was a lot lower scoring than I think a lot of people expected. And then, just as the Lions fan, my heartbeat was going through the roof the whole time. I was like, this is too close. Not a big fan of any of these third down calls, and yet somehow it just kept falling apart for the Chiefs the entire second half, where they were just having to settle. And Brian Branch, he's off to an early start in his defensive player of the year that I predicted. So,
defensive rookie. He's not winning DPOY. One more thing. Travis Kelce fantasy owners are thrilled. As a Travis Kelce fantasy owner, the fact that Mahomes can't really trust any of his other weapons anymore means that Travis Kelce is going to be eating when he comes back. And as a guy that has Kyle Pitts as his second option, I am very glad to have Travis Kelce on my team. But yeah, we'll move on to Panthers Falcons. I don't really have anything to say there other than the fact that I thought Bryce Young was going to look a little bit better out the gates, thought the receivers were going to be a little bit more involved, and the Falcons just kind of came in and won.
Yeah, the Bryce Young with the 2 interceptions right over the middle of the field, where it's hard for shorter quarterbacks to see, is might be something to watch moving forward. They might move away from reads that are center of the field, where a safety might come up and make 2 interceptions. We don't know, but Jesse Bates is looking pretty good for the Falcons right off of the gate, and so is Bijan. Bijan didn't really see as many touches as I feel some people would think. I mean, he was behind Tyler Algier, but end of the day, he generated on those rushes, and
he had a touchdown too. It was a crazy run.
Yeah.
It was a screen, or not a screen. It was like I don't know if it was a full-on screen. I think it was receivers blocking for him.
I think it was like a pass out to the flat, and he just made homies miss.
He made the first guy miss, and then you could just see he was gone. Mm-hmm. We'll get into my first lock of the week, if that's all right with you, or my lock of the week, of the Ravens over the Texans. I am also a Lamar Jackson fantasy owner, and let me tell you, when I saw the score was 22 to 3 or 22 to 6 at one point, I was like, oh yeah, great day. Lamar has 6 points. So, also, quick bingo thing. I said a receiver would have a season-ending injury. Unfortunately for me, it was the wrong position group that I guessed. It was J.K. Dobbins tearing his Achilles out for season in week 1. which is unfortunate for him as well because of his injury issues.
Yeah, 680 snaps in 4 years, and yeah, I mean, hell, I feel like Baltimore is just that team. Maybe they have like a terrible fucking like nutritionist. I don't know, but they always seem to be the team every year that's just gonna have the most season-ending injuries.
They're playing in a close proximity to the Commanders' field. That's why
They're
it's
just
rubbing
near it.
off. They're close
Yeah.
by, so it's rubbing off. Uh,
In other news, Zay Flowers, pretty good, and was very
yeah.
clearly the top target
Yep.
for Lamar.
Yes, he was. Zay Flowers popped off.
Makes my little Zay boner hard.
I'm leaving that in there.
Mhm.
Next up on the docket, if you don't have anything else to say about Ravens Texans,
Nah.
it's going to be Bengals Browns. This is one that I watched today. I rewatched the condensed replay, and I've got a lot to say about this one. This game was tough to watch because the Browns' defense was so much better than I thought they would be. Like, basically, what it boiled down to is the Browns have a really good defense, a really good run game, and they can pass. The Bengals have a really good pass game, an okay defense, and they can sort of run. But when you can't pass, then the really good defense of the Browns can key in on the run and kind of stop you from being able to do anything on offense. And if you can't stop Nick Chubb, which not a lot of people can, you're going to kind of struggle on defense as well, which is exactly what happened. And that's, I mean, the 24-3 obviously is a tough score to see, especially after Joe Burrow just got paid. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried in the long run about that team at all. I'm not I'm not convinced that this was the future of this team is Joe Burrow throwing under 50% and under 100 yards. It's not.
So pulling up the pass rush run rate of the Browns for that game, they are second in the league, and that's at 70%. So that's a rough thing to be behind. And just just a little future looking, little spoiler. The Bills also 70%.
They were first.
Yes.
Okay, in pass rush win rate.
Yeah.
So Bills defense looking good. Yeah, it was a tough game to watch. And again, to bring fantasy into this, Jamar Chase on my team, sitting there doing nothing, and I was confused. Now I'm not. I get it. I'm starting him with confidence next week, so not super worried about it. I know. I think that was one of the games you said you didn't watch at all, right?
Yeah, I'm watching mostly through like game day to see like some highlights from all the games, and then flicking between channels otherwise. And the one play it showed was like the sack to win it, and it's like that doesn't mean anything to me. They're already down 24-3. Like the sack at the end of the game means nothing.
Yeah, very wrong on the Bengals over Browns prediction. I was only really thinking about the Browns offense and the fact that Deshaun wasn't really the best last year. And I forgot that their defense was also pretty stellar, and they definitely showed that.
Yep. Next up on the Colts and Jaguars. You can take it ahead if you're gonna slob on some top here.
All right, you're gonna slop on some knob later down the list, I know. So I'm gonna start off here. My MVP prediction. I'm feeling strong about Trevor Lawrence. All right, maybe not so much about who else did I say? Geno and Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. Not so strong about those three, but
Oh, like
let me pull up my notes on the Jaguars. Their entire offense just looked flat out stellar. They all meshed really well. Travis Etienne had some big runs, and it was against kind of a tough run defense. DeForest Buckner looks to be back to his 2020 self, and that entire Colts defense looks good. And they basically shut down Tank Bigsby and Jamal Agnew when they had their carries. And ETN was just able to slice through him and get through the D-line and get some big yards rushing. And Tank had his touchdown from 1 yard out. And the play before it, he had 5 yards, and 6 of those 5 yards, he was being pushed by the O-line. So if you actually go through and like look at Tank's plays and Jamal's plays, if they gained yards at all, it was not because of what they were doing. So they didn't look super good. I hope they don't use Tank Bigsby in the future that much, because he also had a pass fly straight through his hands that got picked off and that was Trevor Lawrence's interception, was straight through Tank Bigsby's hands. Nearly as bad as the
Mhm.
Kadarius Toney one, except for Tank is a power running back, so it's kind of excusable to drop a pass. But still, that interception not on Trevor Lawrence at all. Evan Engram bumped out wide a couple times, so he was like out wide as a wide receiver, and he ended up mossing one of the corners and looked good. And so I'm happy about that. And then
That's Zay Jones.
Zay
Yeah.
Jones looked great. He very clearly is the wide receiver 2 there. Kirk is going to play in the slot. And Zay Jones was just catching everything. He had some crazy hands catches that I was really, really happy with. And I mean, obviously, freaking Calvin Ridley just popped off. That chemistry is has been built up so much. I don't know how much work they put in the offseason, but it's really something nice to watch. If you have the time and ability, watch some highlights from that game of the Jaguars. It's really, really nice to watch. And Trevor Lawrence looked great too. I mean, that goes without saying. The rest of the team played great, and he looked great. He was making some really nice throws. As far as the Colts go, Anthony Richardson looked about as advertised. He had a lot of zip on the ball. He stepped up and ran a couple times, and he looked good while doing it. And he had a couple inaccuracies, but mostly kept the ball out of harm's way. Even on his pick, he threw a pick to Tyson Campbell. And even on that play, if he had put like maybe half a foot more air under it, it would have been a beautiful throw to a wide open receiver. If they add a running back like Jonathan Taylor back to the lineup, they pay him, just do it, just get it out of the way, and get an offense back because you need it because your offense was non existent except for Anthony Richardson making plays. And when a team sees that all you can do is throw the ball and you can't run the ball, they're going to key in on the pass and they're going to stop you every single time.
Yeah. It literally it started to seem like, oh, it's a read option, but there's no actual option. It's just I'm gonna have to keep it, and I'm gonna need to try to do better than these running backs are.
And
And
the unfortunate part is there
it
was an option and he did hand it off, and then Deion Jackson got stuffed for a loss of 1, and he
Mhm.
averaged 1.1 yards
Yeah.
a carry on 14 carries. Like, it's not like it's a small sample size and he's not averaging a high amount. It was a big sample size and he sucked. And there was all this hype about, oh, Deion Jackson, JT's sitting out, pick this guy up. He's a big threat. He's not. He just isn't. But that's my Jaguars Colts rant over. Pay JT,
That's your Jaguars.
please.
Yeah, that's fun too. That was my lock of the week, and I just let you basically take that whole thing because I knew you were gonna watch that with some keen eyes there. Yeah, so I was watching the every snap of the Bucks Vikings game because I was really rooting for the Vikings simply because of my pick against the Bucks, and the Bucks opened up being like 3 for 10 and 12 yards on Baker Mayfield, and they also opened up like one rush and 11 passes. It was gross. And then they suddenly just started to figure that part out, I guess, and managed to score touchdowns. And Baker had some bad misses early, and then Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and all of them just started doing their thing against the Vikings defense. The Vikings, however, could not get away from the Bucks defense for the life of them. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers weren't even like that good at like getting pressure or getting to them. They were just like pushing the O line enough for Kirk to fumble the snap after the center puts it in his hands, and then he throws an interception and just 3 turnovers for Kirk. Doesn't look very good for him. Justin Jefferson still had a fucking day, and they lost by 3 to a team that we both kind of said was going to be bottom of the barrel in the entire league. Baker Mayfield still looks bad. Don't get me wrong. Kirk Cousins slung the fucking rock, 344 yards, 2 touchdowns. Still had 3 turnovers. So rough day as a Vikings fan, and I was for those 3 hours.
How dare you, as a Lions fan, be a Vikings fan? That was another one of the games that I didn't watch at all. But yeah, I was a little surprised that the Bucks pulled it out. I guess I should have kind of thought about how Baker wasn't, you know, god awful his entire time on the Browns. He was okay. He looked okay for
Yeah,
a couple
he's
years.
definitely got that streakiness, and it's like how there was always that meme that would be like, oh, the Baker Mayfield cycle, suck for a game, call out the haters, have a play lights out, and it repeats, and that's basically what he did in this game single handedly. He sucked for the entire first half, or almost first half. They had a score right down the like 2 minute drill, 4 minute drill. And prior to that, they looked like ass. They looked like shit. And then it's like after that, he was the good baker, and he wasn't making bad bread. He wasn't burning shit. He was cooking up some good ass toast, and motherfucker just played good, and they ran the ball really well. It was just so odd. And then next up, Saints Titans. Did you see any of that game?
I did not. I had Olave on my fantasy team, so I saw that he did pretty well. He had some catches and yards, no touchdowns. And I also saw, I don't know if you had seen this at all, but it's been all over socials. There's a video of Derek Carr asking his coaching staff to draw up a deep shot to Rashid Shaheed and then telling Rashid Shaheed, hey, if we get this, go. And then he did indeed go, and the pass connected, and it was like a cool moment. And I think my Derek Carr hate may have been a little bit too much. I do think he's actually,
Yes,
after watching
turning it
that, I
around.
think he's okay. But again, I don't think he's some all-star quarterback or anything like that. I think he's just capable
I,
of leading a team.
is he better than Jameis? I'll bring it back
Yeah,
to that.
Jameis is streaky. Jameis is weird. I don't like grading Jameis because it's like, did he throw for 30 touchdowns? Yes. Did he throw for 30 interceptions? Yes. Was he good?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if he was good. I can't tell you.
yeah. It's I didn't watch much of the game. All I knew is that like somehow Tannehill threw 3 interceptions,
They
and
let him
Derek
throw it
Carr
three
managed to
times.
get that. Oh, they let him throw it 34 times. So
What the hell?
yeah, yeah.
No.
It definitely wasn't a type of game where they were like, "Oh, we're just gonna hop on
47%.
Derek Carr's back." No,
47% completion.
it was a messy day for offense.
What
It's
the
fucking
hell?
yeah,
Ryan,
rough day.
no.
But
I'm
yeah,
so glad I picked
it
against the
didn't
Titans. Derrick Henry looked fine.
it didn't help me too much in the fact that like immediately it felt like there was an interception and Derek hadn't really done much, and then they managed to get the touchdown, and I was like, okay, they're actually looking up now. But uh, I was getting real worried for my Derek Carr praise for a second there. Next up,
49ers
Steelers and
Steelers. Brock
yeah,
Purdy looks great. Brandon Ayuk looks great. Debo Samuel looks great. The offense looks
Christian
great. That's
McCaffrey looked
something we,
great.
yeah, him too. Kind of forgot he was there. That's something that was kind of a given. The non-given is, would Brock Purdy look okay? And he was the game manager that I've been saying the 49ers have needed. He doesn't do too much. He puts the ball into the perfect spot for his receivers to go get it, and he is some of the most talented receivers in the league, and that's all he needs to do.
Brock Purdy literally played game manager the whole game, and team fucking blew him out. It was like 30-0 at one point. I was like, oh my god. And so then, Pickett gets hella chances to throw the ball and doesn't really show us anything because he still has Matt Canada as his fucking play caller. It's it's a rough time to be a Steelers fan for that whole time, but man, the Niners really, I felt like I was hearing some doubt on the Niners, and almost immediately, no, they were not going to have any problems with that. The Niners managed to pressure the Steelers on 44% of snaps, and man, Steelers are looking rough because I wasn't super high on them. I don't think you were super high on them,
I wasn't
but
super high on them, but I was a little higher than you were. I didn't think that Tomlin would have a losing season.
yeah, see, I think that he will, and that it's going to be the play caller's fault. And so far, I feel validated.
I just like Brandon Ayuk. I like him. He's fun. He had one play his rookie season where he just hurdled the defender on his way to the end zone, and I was like, that guy
So he
right there,
claimed him.
him.
Yep.
And I'm glad to be validated by that. But I mean, I haven't vocally claimed him anywhere, so I guess this is me hopping on the Brandon Ayuk bandwagon right now officially.
hmm
I didn't watch that game at all, so I didn't. I saw the Brandon Ayuk touchdowns and that Brock Purdy tossing it up against Pat Pete after what Pat Pete said about Brock. Man, it was nice to see Ayuk come away with that one.
Yep. Moving forward into the Commanders and Cardinals, I didn't watch too much of it. I really don't have much to say. Um, Sam Howell looked like he could be good. He also had a lot of moments where he looked pretty rough. Uh, Joshua Dobbs is, of course, the quarterback for the Cardinals.
They had him
Take
throw
that for what
30
you will.
passes.
Yeah, the most astonishing part to me about this matchup is the fact that the Cardinals had a lead at any point in the game.
They didn't look
Uh,
awful. They
they
didn't look
didn't look
like they were.
terrible. They narrowly lost, but it's just like,
It's to the Commanders. Like, I'm
yeah,
high on the Commanders. I like the Commanders, but come on.
yeah.
Next week they play. Who do they play? The Giants. Oh God. Oh my
Oh
God.
shit.
They could look close in another game. No. We'll get
Oh
to
my
that
god.
later.
Yep.
I don't really have anything else to say about the Commanders Cardinals. Uh, Nobody really of note in that
Uh,
one. I wonder how
Bears
Rondo did.
Packers and our heartbroken.
Yeah, I'll be the first to say I was somewhat wrong about Justin Fields. I thought he was polished and ready to go from the jump. I kind of forgot that they won 3 games last year. And with that being the case, I still think he's good. I still think he's talented. I just don't think he's fully ready to lead this offense. And I also I took really in-depth notes about this. The O-line still looked rough. He still looked like he was looking to get out of the pocket and move, and he was able to do that successfully. And the only thing that I think he could improve is taking away his run first mentality. I feel like if he senses pressure, he's running out of the pocket and he's not always
Mhm.
keeping his eyes downfield when that's something he needs
Yeah.
to do. The other thing I want to talk about in this game is the Packers' young defense. Their young defensive players that they keep taking early on that everybody's like, dude, take a receiver, dude, take this. It
Mhm.
started to pay off because they're all really athletic, really good looking defensive players that are young, that are still able to do a bunch of things, and they showed out exactly what they could do today. And Jair Alexander looked like he was a lockdown corner again on DJ Moore. And Devontae Wyatt, I think his name is. He's interior D line out of Georgia, and he looked good. He had a sack on Fields, and he had a couple big plays. And then just the rest of the defense, they got Quay Walker, who had the pick six,
Mhm.
where he almost got decapitated at the end of it by the O line. And then they just had some other plays where like that defense just looks great. And Jordan Love looks legit, and I'm not fully ready to say that he's great yet because we saw that Bears defense last year not be that good. But so far, he looks like he's capable, at least, of leading a team. And he looked like he
Yeah.
was not too big, or the occasion wasn't too big for him. He had one throw to the back of the end zone. My dad called me yesterday about it. I was at work and I got a call from my dad, and he was like, "Did you watch the freaking Bears game? And did you see what Jordan Love was doing out there?" And so he's a big Packers fan, for anybody who doesn't know that, which a lot of people, I guess, wouldn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, he called and he was talking about it, and he said there was one throw where he like stopped his throwing motion, waited a second, and then threw it. And it wasn't like a pump fake. It was just like, I can't throw that, I can't throw that, I can't throw it, and now I can. And I saw that play, and it was a touchdown in the back of the end zone to probably Romeo Dobbs. I couldn't tell you. Maybe it was the Reed. They got a receiver last name Reed. I don't remember who he was throwing it to, but it was one of the receivers in the back of the
Jaden
end zone.
Reed.
Jaden Reed, was that
Jaden
it?
Reed didn't have a touchdown.
Okay, then it
Romeo
wasn't him.
Dobbs. It's Romeo Dobbs. He had two TDs.
Two T's, yeah, then it was Dobbs. And it was just like, wait, there's the window. He fitted in the window and he looked good. And then
Yeah.
Romeo Dobbs had a hell of a catch on a
Hmm.
fade route. It was like the Brandon Ayuk play to the other side of the field. And it was just like Jordan Love looks good out there. And it's unfortunate that the Packers are going to have yet another really stellar quarterback if he keeps playing like this, but
Yeah.
it's looking that way.
I have a couple things to add. One, yeah, you already mentioned it, but the Bears' line did not really look much better at all, despite Darnell Wright. Um, Second, The Packers were like the opposite. The Packers had no pressure. It was like in Madden when you just have like the quarterback stand as a statue and then all the routes run and then they run back and they run back and then you throw
Yeah.
it. That's what Jordan Love got to do all game. Uh, and lastly, uh, Justin Fields is on pace for 1,000 yards. Woo!
Did he run?
Bingo!
Did he run
There you
for a
go.
lot? I guess he did. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
he
other
ran a
thing,
lot for
the
not
Bears
much.
the Bears defense, as bad as their fronts, their D line looked on pass rush,
Hmm.
on run plays when Aaron
The
Jones didn't break
linebackers.
out a good one, but the linebackers were flying out there. Tremaine Edmonds looked way better than he did in preseason. I remember seeing him in preseason and being like, they paid this guy, but now seeing him and watching him during
They
that
have
game,
Tremaine Edmonds and they have, I believe,
is it Jack
TJ
Sanborn?
Edwards.
Oh, TJ Edwards. Is it
No,
TJ
TJ.
Edwards?
Yeah, the Eagles. They booked him as well this FA, and they both looked really good. They were both flying around, and it just
It is
didn't
TJ
last long
Edwards.
enough.
Jack Sanborn is
Uh,
also a starting linebacker on the Bears. I just want to put that out there for my sanity.
uh,
But yeah, the front seven looked good at stopping the run, except for when Aaron Jones decided that he wanted to take the ball and run very far. And they looked like they were incapable of doing anything against the pass. So I'm not sure how exactly that matchup is going to go, or how the rest of their season is going to go. But at least in week one, the Bears still looked pretty rough. The Packers looked a little bit more polished than I expected. And I think Justin Fields still did pretty well. I think Raiders Broncos is
yeah,
next.
yeah. I watched probably the whole first half of this game, and then I didn't watch the rest, and I was so devastated when the Broncos lost because I was like, "Oh wow, they're looking pretty good. Russ is dealing. Wow, he's danger Russ." Like no, this end of the game stats, he had pretty good stats with two TDs, 177 yards, and 27 for 34. But somehow, the the team just managed to get squeaked out by a Jimmy G crew.
I don't have any input on this one. I didn't watch anything about it. I have no idea what any of the stats even looked like. So I'm okay with moving on to the Dolphins Chargers. I know you got a lot to say about this one.
Hmm. I mean, hell, that was just a fucking barn burner. I mean, you get both of us very high on Dolphins. Both of us kind of high on the Chargers, although not so much on the level of the Dolphins. The Dolphins played a very different game than the Chargers did, and yet they were both just neck and neck. Like, Chargers, oh, we're going to rush the ball 40 times and we're going to walk away with 230 yards off of that and 3 touchdowns. And then Tua's on the other side, like, how about you eat my 466 yards and my 3 touchdowns? He did have the pick, but Miami, like, they could run the ball, but it just didn't look as nice when they were running the ball versus passing just elite numbers with Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle, I'm surprised, was so, like, pedestrian when everything else going on, but hey, Tyreek Hill, 8.
Yeah, I mean, Waddle 78 yards, not terrible, but only 4 catches. I did not watch any of that game. I just know that it was a big old shootout the whole time. And Tyreek Hill was really close to that 50 fantasy point mark that I have on my bingo sheet. I may have to raise that to like 55 just because 50 is very attainable. But yeah, I am glad I picked the Dolphins,
Yeah,
but
based
also
on
I would not have been mad if I had
week
picked the
one.
Chargers.
Cool. There was some interesting timeout usage in the game. I can't really remember the specific instances or scenarios, but I just remember being a little confused every time there was a timeout called, just for like the weirdest. Like there's 8 minutes left in the game, and they're like calling the timeout for like formation change or I don't know what, just something weird was going on. Another game that I watched closely that was down to the wire was the Eagles Patriots game, and I don't know what you have to say on this, but the Eagles looked so rough until they just couldn't anymore. And then that's when it was like, okay, we have to figure something out. And they managed to score a little bit in the fourth quarter. But man, biggest takeaway from this is that the Patriots are a top defense. When you hold
They
like a
always
top
are.
offense from last year, is yeah, well, it's different with the Eagles because the Eagles were coming in so high, and the Eagles were coming in with such a high touted defense as well that you would think that this was going to be a cakewalk, and yet Mac Jones looked really good, and the Patriots defense looked really good against like the top dog.
I actually
So
didn't get around to watching this game, unfortunately. I looked at the final stats, and the fact that it was 20-25 was enough for me to be happy. I thought we were going to get obliterated, and we didn't. So
yeah,
I'm happy with
that's my point.
putting
Like
up a fight.
it was it was looking like it was going to be pure obliteration. I do have one thing to say. Uh, Eagles or Eagles, New England's run game, Zeke is terrible. That's not going
He
to
had
change
he had
anytime
one
soon.
carry for like 7 yards. All right, cut him some slack.
Yeah, and then he had a fumble, like
Hey man,
just off of.
what do you want him to sign?
Oh my
Philip
god.
Lindsay out of retirement? Shout out Philip Lindsay. Never fumbled the ball.
Wow,
Never lost a fumble.
well
Yeah,
done. But
yeah.
I
Anywho,
Mac Jones dealt the ball anywhere he wanted.
as
They
he did
just
his
couldn't
rookie
run the
year.
ball.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
and
getting back to form like we thought
without
wanted.
without
We
fucking
got
Matt
Matt
Patricia
Patricia.
calling plays. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, about time. Say what you want about Bill, Belichick, and O'Brien. They can they can lead Mac to success. Mostly O'Brien on that front.
Mhm.
As bad as he is as a head coach, great OC, great OC. Rams Seahawks is next up. I didn't watch this one. I saw the clip of Aaron Donald coming at Geno Smith. I don't know if you saw that one, and Geno was
Yeah.
mic'd up and he just said, "Oh my God,"
Oh.
and I was like, "Yeah, that." Not gonna lie, that's me. If I was ever getting barreled down by Aaron Hernandez as well, I would have. Wow, that's the wrong Aaron, isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Either one of them, I'd
yeah.
probably say, "Oh my God." Very different reasons though. One of them wants to put me in the hospital. The other one wants to put me in a body bag. And next up is the Cowboys and Giants.
We both picked the Seahawks. We were both wrong.
Hmm.
I'm actually very happy that I was wrong
Because you
because,
bought a
as I
share of the
said
Rams
during the
stock.
recap, while I was talking about them, I was high on them. I felt like they could win games. Bought the Rams stock for it. They won their first game, and Matt Stafford looked really good despite the fact that Cooper Kupp wasn't there. And we know how he looked without Cooper Kupp last year, where it was like the Peter Griffin meme. The
Puka.
white person and the black people. It's like, okay, not okay. Cowboys Giants. I literally didn't watch a snap of this game
I just know
because
exactly how it went.
I knew exactly how it was gonna go, and that's why I was like, I'll take a game off. I'll go enjoy my Sunday.
Yeah.
I won't sit here and watch this.
Don't ask me why I picked the Giants. I don't know either. All right. I thought maybe the $40 million a year Danny Dimes was worth it. It's not. It wasn't. It never was. I didn't think it was when he signed it. But for some reason, this offseason he got all hyped up. Oh my God, he's so good now. No, he's not. Shut up.
You picked them to go 5-12, and
And
out
I
of all
picked them to
games,
win.
you're like,
In my defense, division game at home. That is basically the entire reason I picked them. Because division games are never like who's better, or they're not always who's better. There's always a chance of the other team upsetting. And then home games, the crowd plays such a huge part in every game, but especially if it's a division rival. And also, the day before the anniversary of 9/11 in New York, the Cowboys went in and just, 40 to nothing.
ground them into the ground, into dust.
Yeah. We got to talk about the Jets game, man.
Man, we were watching this closely, and with 77 seconds and 4 snaps,
75.
Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is out for the year.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers torn Achilles. Or ruptured Achilles, sorry. I sent you a video, I don't know if you watched it, of the moment it happened. I don't know if you saw the tendon
He, like,
shake.
popped,
You
and
can
it's
see
so
it.
gross.
There's the when Eric Berry ruptured his Achilles, you could see it on him. And there was one other player who ruptured his Achilles. I cannot remember who it was for the life of me. And it's the same video. It's the same pop, snap, and
Mhm.
snap, crackle, pop, and you're out for the year. But yeah, two torn Achilles or two ruptured Achilles in 1 week is gotta be a new record for the NFL with J.K. and Aaron.
Hmm.
And
Man, I'm not
I
even like
and the
an Aaron
Jets still
Rodgers fan,
freaking
but
won.
that sucks.
Yeah, and the Jets still won.
Hmm.
Shockingly enough, I have this written down on my whiteboard. The Jets did not trust Zach Wilson at all.
Hmm.
No matter what happened in the offseason, no matter what Aaron Rodgers taught him, no matter how good he was looking in the preseason, they didn't trust him. They ran the ball every single play, or they threw it behind the line of scrimmage. And that was all they did for the entire game, what it felt like. I I just like I couldn't fathom having a quarterback who your quarterback believes in to be his backup and not at least letting him try throwing it to Garrett Wilson. I mean, he did eventually, that fade in the end
It
zone that
took his
Wilson bobbled
time.
in.
Yeah,
But oh my God, he's got
he's
like,
just mad because he has Garrett Wilson on his fantasy team. He made him watch the game closely for that long. He was upset.
yeah, he should have caught that touchdown way earlier. I did win though. I did pull out a win with Garrett Wilson. Thank God. Even though I had Lamar
Narrowly.
Jackson and Saquon Barkley and Jamar Chase all starting, Garrett Wilson helped me win along with Graham Gano. Thank you for missing those kicks, bud. Yeah. I
I think it can't go unstated. Brees Hall
Oh my
immediately
God,
was
2 carries
gassed.
for over 100 yards.
Yeah, 127 off of 10
Yeah,
carries.
close enough.
Great average. He had a catch for 20 yards. He was just like back, and then obviously, he had those two big runs, and then they're like, "Oh, Zach Wilson's in the game. They're not passing it. Let's just make sure we stop him every time." That's why the average obviously just nosedives. But yeah, Zach Wilson, rough, uh, rough in the fact that there's zero confidence behind him, but also with the Dalvin Cook and Brees Hall tandem. Hopefully, when they start passing a little bit more, they won't be so keyed in on, and they might be able to squeak out some more wins. But I mean, hell, our predictions were both with a Aaron Rodgers led team, and I had them going 10-7. You had them matching their last season
7 and
7 and
10.
10,
Yeah.
and yours looks a lot more realistic because guess who's back?
Back
Back
again.
again.
Zach is
Wilson's back.
back. Tell a friend. Two more things I want to say about this game. First, for the Jets, I picked against them when they had Aaron Rodgers, and then Rodgers got hurt, and I was like, "Oh, cakewalk," and then it wasn't. And then Josh Allen, he's still a very talented quarterback physically.
Yep.
He is physically one of the most gifted quarterbacks in the league. I think that's all I got to say about them.
Yeah.
Just really unfortunate that they didn't freaking let Zach Wilson chuck a couple.
Oh yeah, for your sake.
No, not even that. I just wanted to see what his
See
progression
anything.
had been. Like there was all this talk in the offseason and Aaron Rodgers was excited about him and I saw him in the preseason and he looked fine. Like he looked good in the preseason even. And then
Yeah.
Rodgers went down and I was like, maybe we'll get a brief sneak peek at what Zach Wilson has to offer. And
And
we will through the rest of the season, I'm sure. But yeah.
yeah, and the announcers brought up probably every single drive, like, oh, here's Garrett Wilson, press man. Let's see if he targets that. They never targeted that,
Yeah, they
not
never
once.
did. They should have, but they didn't.
Um,
They should have.
yeah, they were running it and they were looking other directions. But I have a few more things to add on. I wouldn't say I'm a Josh Allen hater,
Yes,
but
you
I've
are.
never been as high. Okay, I'm never as high as anyone else has been on Josh Allen. I think that he definitely still has like the turnover mistakes that are so frequent. I mean, the stat came up during the game. He has 80 in his first 5 years, which is tied for most. And then he adds 5 to that total. He's still a turnover machine, and I'm not gonna like bury him for it because I think what he's gonna be like needing to learn is the same thing that Mahomes had to learn after his MVP season, his first one when he was a sophomore player. He needs to learn that like just because he can do it, he doesn't have to. And that's what I feel Josh Allen was doing all last night was, oh, I can make this distance. I see someone deep. I can make this distance with pressure in my face. And so he throws it and it goes right to Jordan Whitehair.
We'll go into. We kind of already talked about the games I wanted to talk about. We'll go into a bit of a week two overview and our predictions for week two. Is there any either stock things or bingo things that you want to talk about on your bingo sheet, my bingo sheet, that are close to happening? I have a couple on the bingo sheet.
I can update my bingo sheet because I deleted it and then fallen asleep.
Yeah. Y'all saw his bingo sheet in the video. While you do that,
I'm gonna correct it from a line just a bitch.
While you do that, I'm gonna talk about the couple that I want to talk about. Justin Jefferson had over 100 plus yards receiving in this week, and so if he continues to do that, this is the start of a 5-game streak for him, obviously. Michael Thomas did play this week, so that's one of his 4 games that he needs to play. And then the 8-game winning streak for a non-undefeated team is so alive because the Bengals have not won, the Bills have not won, and the Chiefs have not won. And all 3 of those teams are teams I could see going on and winning 8 in a row. So I believe in that one a lot. And then Baker Mayfield take not that good anymore. And I don't think I have anything else except for DTR throwing at least 100 passes without an injury to Deshaun Watson after that game. I don't know if that is going to happen, because Deshaun, he's not fully back to his Houston form, but I think he showed flashes of being back there, and I think in better weather as well. We'll see a bit of a better Deshaun Watson, unfortunately, and I think he'll start to look a little bit better.
I don't have anything pertaining to bingo to mention, other than the fact that I have updated it to not call me a bitch, and that it says what it originally was, with Derrick Henry is injured for 7 games. The one thing I do want to mention is going all the way back, harkening back to the Justin Fields talk and the Bears talk, their game against the Packers. I just want to, as we reflect, you were correct on 8 of the 16 matchups this past week, and I was correct on 11 out of the 16 matchups this week. But I do want to make you feel a little bit better, and I'll just share with you the fact that we didn't mention it in the video ever. I don't even think I mentioned it to you ever. When we were making our awards predictions, I made a head coach prediction. Head coach prediction was Matt Eberflus, because the Bears would be going from having the number 1 overall pick to being a playoff team in my eyes. Could happen, I guess. Maybe still. But
I still think it can. I think the NFC is weak enough that they can still make the playoffs.
I think they could still make the playoffs. I'm not so sure Eberflus is exactly winning any coaching awards after the game I just saw him put on. Also,
I think there's not so much you can do when you've got that whole line to work with, and that's a tough hand to be dealt. But the other thing that I want to victory lap on you about. We didn't really victory lap the Lions prediction. We should have. Man, we got that right. Come on.
Brian Branch interception. Mahomes interception. Hey.
I did say that Mahomes might have an interception on opening night for the first time. But one thing I do want to say, in that NFC South video, we got into a very heated debate about whether Trevor Lawrence was that much better than Justin Fields. And after this week, I just want to say Trevor Lawrence is so much better than Justin Fields. And,
you mean his team's so much better? We've had this conversation. We can move on.
Fine. Better decision maker for sure. He doesn't have the issues that Fields has, and I still think that Fields is talented. I still think that Fields is a very good quarterback, but I think the decision making needs to change a little bit, and then he'll be a lot better. But we'll get into the week 2 record predictions. If you would like to lead us off, Vikings Eagles playing Thursday night.
I'll kick us off. Vikings Eagles. I still my original prediction versus my current. I still have the Eagles winning this matchup. Vikings just had too many mistakes, and the Eagles, while they couldn't generate much, that was against a defense I see is much better than the Vikings.
I also have the Eagles. I could also see the Vikings needing a bounce back game and getting it, and having Justin Jefferson kind of go off. I do think the Eagles defense is really good, and they're going to kind of limit the Vikings. And so I still have the Eagles winning. I still think they are, but as I said with a lot of games this past week, it wouldn't shock me if it didn't go that way.
Yep.
Next up, we
Next
got
up, go ahead.
Packers Falcons. After what I saw from the Packers, I did change my prediction. Initially, I had Falcons winning from the initial full season prediction. I have since changed that to Packers, and I definitely think that Jordan Love is going to go in there and tear up the Falcons defense. And maybe he's not. Maybe the Falcons defense is really good and they're going to limit his passing and everything. And maybe they're just so much better than the Bears. And the Bears just suck. But I don't think that's the case. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Packers in Atlanta.
Yeah, I also changed my pick from Falcons to Packers. I think the fact that the Falcons didn't really commit to showing us much of Desmond Ridder versus how the Packers let Jordan Love just play the game. They didn't Zach Wilson him. I think definitely Packers are going to go in there. Next up, the Bills, who just had a devastating loss on Monday Night Football, will go and play the Raiders, and the Raiders narrowly beat a Broncos team that's kind of still trying to find their footing, and I think the Bills walk away
I think
handedly at home.
I think they do too. I think the Bills take this one. I don't have my lock of the week picked yet. I will say that.
Me either. I will do that at the end.
I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to do that at the end when I hear what yours is, or when I kind of hear your general thoughts on the week. But yeah, I think the Bills at home with the crowd with them, they just take it to the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders are that good. From our record predictions, it's absolutely absurd to me that they have the best record in the AFC West at any point in the season, even after 1 week. It's absurd. So I think they need to be just clobbered in Buffalo.
Beat into submission.
Beat up brutally. Anywho, moving on. Ravens at Bengals. I have the Bengals with a bounce back at home. They need a bounce back, and I think this is the team to do it against. I think initially I had the Bengals, and I was very tempted to change it after seeing the score from week 1, and then after watching the game from week 1. I think that Joe Burrow will have a bounce back game. I think Jamar Chase will show up. I think T. Higgins will actually, catch a pass. And I don't know if the Ravens can keep up, but this is going to be a hell of a game either way. Division matchup, two very good teams that had kind of subpar quarterback play in week 1. And I like the Bengals to come out on top, though.
Yeah, this is a fierce, division matchup, too. I feel like every time the Ravens and the Bengals play, it's always close. It might not always be huge on scoring, but it's always close. And I was also very tempted to go Ravens here. I'm sticking with my Bengals pick of what I had prior. But the Ravens pass rush is definitely something to watch versus I don't know how healthy Joe is expected to get after another week, but we'll see.
I think that the Browns pass rush is just otherworldly good. I don't think that it was entirely the Bengals O-line's fault. I think it was definitely on them. They should have protected Joe Burrow a lot more, but I'm not super worried about the Bengals at all.
Seahawks at Lions. Obviously, I'm sticking with my pick of Lions. They won week 1. The Seahawks kind of sputtered week 1, and I hope that momentum of the Seahawks falling on their face kind of continues into this matchup.
I initially had the Seahawks to win. As a person who has a share of Seahawks stock, I would love to see that happen. But I have also shifted my pick over to the Lions at home. Goff is looking capable, and the entire team is looking really good. Coming off of a victory against the Chiefs, I think they're going to have a lot of momentum. And the Seahawks, after losing a game that they expected to win, I think they'll be a little bit down on the momentum. Next up, Colts at Texans. I liked what I saw from the Colts against what I thought was a really good Jaguars defense. I thought the Jags defense played really well, and I thought the Colts played admirably considering their situation. I think the Texans are looking a little rough, especially coming off that game against the Ravens. Anywho, I think that the Colts are going to go into Houston and beat them, but I could also kind of see their one-dimensional offense kind of come back to hurt them. I also think that the Texans' run defense is not going to be that good, and so Deion Jackson may have success this week.
I went with the Colts here. I'm changing my pick from prior, where I had the Texans winning it. I just liked a lot more of what I saw from AR, despite the fact that they had no run game. He still did that. He still had the performance he had. So I liked what I saw from him more than I liked what I saw from CJ Stroud.
I also think the Texans secondary is worse than the Jaguars secondary, so that AR will be able to pick them apart a little bit more easily. Next up, Chiefs at Jags. I have actually shifted my prediction. I initially had Chiefs over Jags. This is a risky one, and I don't even know if I fully believe it, but I'm taking Jags over Chiefs. And I'm a little scared because Chris Jones is coming back. He's just got paid very recently. It was like this morning, right? Or
Yeah.
last night. Chris Jones got paid. Travis Kelce probably going to be back. But I'm gonna stick with the Jaguars, and I'm gonna say that they're gonna pull this one out. I'm assuming you probably have Chiefs in this one.
No, I originally had the Jaguars. I'm gonna stick with the Jaguars because the Jaguars showed me nothing to show that they can't. The the Chiefs, they had their wide receivers eat popcorn right before the game. Um, I'm not saying that the Chiefs wide receivers are going to be the reason why they lose, but despite all the talent coming right back, I still had the Chiefs losing this originally. So I don't imagine that they could win 50-50. I'd like them to win. I'd also like Trevor to win. So it's just a fun matchup to see,
That's going to be
and
absolutely one that
it's
I
gonna be
watch. It
yes
is
for sure.
absolutely going to be the first game that I watch. I don't care what happens, and if the Jags score no points, I'm gonna actually. If the Jags score no points, I'm probably going to cry. But I'll save those tears for the next podcast. You'll see me bawling my eyes out at the start of it. I really hope the Jags win. We're on to the Bears at the Buccaneers. I think the Bears bounce back here, and I think the Buccaneers slip down. I don't see the Bucks going 2-0 to start. I also don't see the Bears going 0-2 to start, and I think that leads to the Bears coming in here and beating the Bucks.
Yep. Uh, I also want the Bucks to lose. I want the Bears to have a good comeback, bounce back game, and they're playing one of the weaker teams in the division. Sorry, not division. One of the weaker teams in the league. So fingers crossed they manage to actually do something about that, and they don't end up going down and losing by like 20. Next up, Chargers Titans. I think, obviously, I'm sticking with what my gut told me prior, but I'm not going to be betting against the Chargers after the absolute show they just put on. So,
Yeah,
Chargers there.
absolutely not betting against them. I think Derrick Henry can be really good in games where the other offense isn't really good. Because obviously, to run the ball, you have to have a lead, or you should have a lead. If you don't, then you run the risk of not succeeding. And unfortunately for Derrick Henry, he's very good at running the ball when his team has the lead. And I just don't see that happening too often, especially against a team like the Chargers. So I look for them to bounce back with a win. Next up, the shit show of the week, new award, Giants Cardinals. We're going to be giving out one shit show of the week award. If
Nice.
it applies, it doesn't have to be given out. It's just when a shit show happens, we gotta give it out. So, Giants Cardinals shit show of the week. I've got the Giants bouncing back and winning because Saquon looked good, but they couldn't run it because they were losing. And I don't
So
think the
bad.
Cardinals are going to be winning. So I think that Saquon's going to be able to run. And that is my logic in this one.
Nice. I also have the Giants just because Cardinals lost to the Commanders, who I like less than the Giants. So, fingers crossed this doesn't come back to bite me. 49ers Rams. Now, see, I know I really like the Rams, but the 49ers put on a masterclass. And as the Rams also put on their own masterclass, it's going to be a fun one to watch, but I still got the 49ers winning.
Yeah, I got the 49ers as well. I got to look
There's
up
too much
TJ
talent
Watt.
everywhere. There's too much talent everywhere on the 49ers, and the Rams have a lot of young talent that still needs to be established. I'm not going against.
Well, I thought the
Henry.
49ers O-line would have played really well, uh, but it would appear that TJ Watt forced 2 fumbles and had 3 sacks in that game. So I'm a little bit scared about what Aaron Donald's gonna be able to do to him. But I I wouldn't be surprised if Purdy was able to. I mean, that offense is built for the short game, right? They've got
Yeah,
Debo, who's one of the best creators after the
they
catch.
get it
They've
out
got
quick.
CMC, who's another one of the best creators after the catch, and George Kittle, who can sit in the flats, catch passes, also go deep, catch passes. So I think the 49ers are just kind of built to win. They don't have any real weaknesses, and even if they are getting pressured and the sacks are piling up, they can shift to, go to one of their extremely talented players like Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, Elijah Mitchell if you need a bigger running back, and just, you know, I think they don't have enough weaknesses for me to ever bet against them. So
Yeah.
I'll be going 49ers in this one. Jets at Cowboys. I initially had the Cowboys, and I am sticking with that, especially after the 40 to nothing game against the Giants. I think that they'll come in there, shut down the run, and Zach Wilson will be sacked 46 times by Micah Parsons.
Only
And
46.
yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, I know. I don't think they're going to give him more than 46 dropbacks. I think on the 46th one, they're going to be like, okay, that's it. And that's going to be the end of the Zach Wilson era in New York because he's going to die by Micah Parsons' sack.
Jeez. Yeah, I'm sticking with my gut. I originally had the Jets winning this. They lost A-Rod. There's really that's going to be a kind of something that's going to permeate through the rest of the year. Where I picked the Jets to win. They're not winning this. Cowboys pick all the way. Next up with the Commanders and the Broncos. I have a feeling we may disagree here, but I'm going to be going with the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm gonna be taking the Commanders on this one, so we do disagree.
Okay, nice. About damn time.
Yeah, I know we've agreed on everything so far. What the fuck? When I picked Jags over
Yeah.
Chiefs, I was like, this is gonna be the disagreement one.
No, this is the overreaction setting in from week one where we're like flabbergasted. Do you have anything you want to say about Broncos Commanders?
Not really. I think this is another candidate for shit show of the week, but they're both closer to mid than they are to shit. So I think it's gonna be just a mid off, and I think the Commanders are
Nice
gonna
coinage.
gonna come out a little bit better. And I think Terry McLaurin's gonna finally be able to make an impact. I don't have him on fantasy this year. I didn't make that same mistake again. But I hope he succeeds. I really do like watching him when he's playing well, and it sucks that he just hasn't been able to play well.
Jumping off, we have the Dolphins at Patriots. The Dolphins, I mean, come on. I have Tua as my MVP candidate. He played as he did. He's leading the league in yards. Tyreek Hill's leading the league in receiving yards. They have a great defense. They're going to stifle a lot of that. It's not going to be another Dolphins Chargers. It's going to be a lot closer. I'm still taking the edge on the Dolphins here.
So, initially, I had Dolphins. When I went back through, picked my week 2 picks, I had Dolphins. Right now, I am changing it to the Patriots.
Dang.
I
Just to disagree. I'm on you.
I don't think it's going to happen. All right. I'm just a hopeful Patriots fan. I think that the Patriots at home, I think their defense is really good, and I think that they're going to be able to pick off Tua a couple times. And if that happens and the offense plays just as well as they did in week 1 against a really good defense in the Eagles, and they kind of build off what they did in the second half, not even second half, but the second, third, and fourth quarters rather than what they did in the first quarter, I think then that offense is going to look really good, and it's going to be the Dolphins who have a stellar offense and I think an okay defense, but I don't think it's anything to write home about. Maybe I'm wrong, but they just let up 36 points. So clearly their defense isn't all that. And I think it's going to be against a stellar defense and a pretty good offense that we saw in week 1. So I'm going to take the Patriots, and I will hold my L loud and proud if they do not win this one.
Love to hear it. Next up, Saints at Panthers. I originally had the Panthers winning this, but after how week 1's gone, I like the Saints more as a full team. I mean, they stuck it out in that game against the Titans. The Panthers, yeah, they lost to... And they lost. They had 2 interceptions for Bryce. It wasn't great. Lost to the Falcons. It's not great, but Saints, I still have edging them out.
Yeah, I've also got Saints over the Panthers, and I'd love to see a Bryce Young masterclass. I would love to see him just
it'd be
perform.
fun to see him, bounce back from the 2 interceptions, just score, do what he wants to the Saints D, but I think the Saints defense is too good to allow a rookie to do that.
And I think the Derek Carr and Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave love triangle they got going on there is a little bit too good for the Panthers defense to keep up with.
Yep.
I don't know if we've ever talked about the Panthers defense, but I think Brian Burns is the only really good part of that. And aside from that, I mean,
Frankie Louvu's decent.
I think they've got a DB that's decent as well. It's
JC Horn.
oh shit, yeah, they got Jason. Fuck. They got another DB that's is it Dante Jackson? I want to say it's Dante Jackson. I think he's pretty decent. Yeah, it is Dante Jackson. But yeah, I mean Shaq Thompson is fine too. I just think that the offense of the Saints is going to be better than the defense of the Panthers.
Yeah, we can agree on that. Rounding off Monday Night Football, Browns Steelers. Steelers got shellacked. Browns shellacked the Bengals. I'm going Browns.
Yeah, I switched mine up. I had Steelers initially. I'm taking Browns now, and I was almost hoping that you would stick with the Steelers because I know you had them initially, or I don't know for sure, but I would imagine you had them initially because we were both pretty low on the Browns, and I hoped you had stuck with it and just been like, no, they'll have a bounce back, they'll be fine. But no, if what I saw from the Browns happens against the Steelers, Kenny Pickett is going to have no time in the pocket, and based on what happened against the Niners, he needs all the help he can get, and if he doesn't get it, I don't see any success for them.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hating on the Steelers offensive coordinator enough, but Browns played that good in that kind of weather. I don't know what the weather's going to be in Acrisure, but I imagine they can stop a way less potent offense if they need to. So, gonna stick it out. Which am I pick to the Browns here?
All right, now it's time for our locks of the week. I am between a couple of them.
It's real hard to pick a lock of the week on week 2 because week 1 we got all that off-season hype. We've got everything we think we know about the team from last season. And then week 1 flips it on its fucking head. So now week 2 is just who knows what's going on.
I am between like 3 of them, and one of them is a really risky one. It's one of our toss-up games that I'm like, what if I just threw a lock on that one and just called it a day?
I think locks gotta go on the ones you like most, you dislike seeing that other team to succeed.
I think if that's the are we allowed to have the same lock?
We can. I don't think we will.
Okay. My lock of the week is going on the Chargers beating the Titans. I don't think the Titans defense will be able to keep up with the Chargers at all. And that's, I mean, we talked about it enough, I think.
Go ahead, copy your lock emoji there. And I'm going to go ahead and plaster that shit right next to my Lions right there. Lions Seahawks at home.
Oh.
I'm taking that all day.
All right, your lock's on the Lions, mine's on the Chargers, and we will see you guys back here for a week 3 episode next week, probably around the same time, Wednesday, Thursday, whenever I decide to get this one edited and the next one edited as well. I'll probably be aiming for Thursday at noon. I think that's a pretty good time to put it out right before that slate of games that day, and it gives me more time to edit.
That night's games,
but yeah,
all right.
Thank y'all for watching.
And check back in week 4. We got our stocks prices evaluating. So
that'll be the week 5 episodes. That's still a few episodes out. We'll be updating the bingo sheets every week if we get anything going. And we kind of did a little brief overview of it in this episode of what's looking the most achievable. And yeah, Colts, pay Jonathan Taylor. That is all I got for you.
Deuces.
Deuces.